type of person that I am has always been the entrepreneurial mindset. It's always been, I tell myself what to do. I lead my own path, and I blaze that path, whatever it ends up looking like. Military is not accepting of people like that. So yeah, I got my ass kicked a lot. I'm a vision setter, that's who I am as a human. Like, I like to chase clouds and believe in stuff that doesn't necessarily isn't proven. Stuff hasn't been easy. There's been a lot of really, really challenging moments where most people would quit. But what the military did for me was it gave me a threshold past where most people would quit. That the only way that doesn't happen is if
Welcome to the Inward Mind podcast. This is Billy M. Ward, and I have the pleasure today of speaking with one of my best friends of all time. This is Cody Osterhout. He is a friend, mentor, big brother. He's just an overall awesome guy, and I know I say that a lot because I know a lot of awesome people, but Cody's a great guy. But I want to kind of break down into his story and talking about him and who he is and his journey to kind of gotten where he's gotten now. And so, yeah, we'll dive deep into this. Cody, you were in the military for a while. How about you break that down? Tell me about your experience in the military, like kind of where it started, what drove you to join the military, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I was kind of a wild kid growing up. I mean, you remember, I was over at your house most nights, just trying to recover. But I think that, when I moved out, I went out to Phoenix, got emancipated at like 16. It might have been like close to 17. I just didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think a lot of me wanted to prove a point, but more than anything, I had a lot of anger going on in my life. So I joined the military, I think at 17. It was like a delayed enlistment type of deal. It lined me out for what I was supposed to do, and frankly, it was good that I did it. More than anything else, like, I wasn't necessarily on the best path moving forward. So getting in the military, it straightened me out, and it taught me a lot of how to deal with the things that I was currently experiencing, issues with family, what I was dealing with school. It was more than anything just something that a young, confused, angry kid needed. When I joined, it was in hopes to be a ranger. If you're familiar, it's the dudes with the tan berets. I wanted to go out and do everything as badass as possible. My dad used to be a ranger. He was special forces, everything like that. So my original concept was to do everything he did, except better, of course. Went in, basic training was about 3.5 months. Then I went to airborne school, did ranger school. That was pretty difficult. Everybody got bronchitis. Right near the end of it, you have to pass like a PT test. You got to run 5 miles in 40 minutes. Do a certain amount of push-ups, amount of sit-ups, and pull-ups. I did get those done with bronchitis. However, the run itself, I was about a minute late for, so recycled, had to go back. It was a great experience, man. I mean, overall, the military, it was hard. You don't really get any grasp of your life, what your weekends look like, what your days look like, especially in the infantry. I mean, it's just a lot of training, a lot of getting ready. When I joined the 82nd, that's basically just jumping out of airplanes and learning how to do night ops. So it was pretty intense, but overall, I met some of the best people in my life.
Yeah, I've met some of those people that you served with, and they're some pretty awesome, pretty crazy, pretty fun guys, that's for sure.
Crazy would definitely be a word.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. What would be something that you would say you learned, your favorite thing that you learned in the military?
I mean, the first word that comes out is loyalty. I think it was just something that I grasped to really hard. I don't know that I had much of it growing up, so the people that gave it to me, like you and your family, I got to see beautiful amounts of it from the brothers in the military. Just learning when things get hard, how you stick together, how you dig in and get everybody through it. That's just a concept and a trait that I think that I'll respect and love for the rest of my life.
Yeah, there's definitely something special. I've known Cody since he was a kid, and I've seen the growth. It's nice to be in this. This is, I think, one of the most special podcasts I'm going to do because I've seen the growth from where you were as a young kid at the movie theater trying to hit on girls with John Fox.
Unsuccessfully.
But then coming to seeing where you're at now and what you're doing with your business and all of these things, it's such a drastic change, and that loyalty aspect for you is such a big thing. And I had the pleasure of filming him and Stevie's wedding video. Stevie is his wife, for those who don't know. I got to film their wedding video, and that's one of the things she said is she learned loyalty from Cody, and that was really special and really cool to see that, like, oh, this dude has been growing and working on the loyalty aspect of things, and it's cool. It's cool to see, man. I've really appreciated being around you my whole life, and it's always good to see you and always good to be around you. We're kind of shifting gears just a little bit, but when it comes to the military, still staying in that, but shifting a little bit, what is the thing that you dreaded the most about the military? Was it the physical aspect? I remember one time you were telling me a story about you were just the guy who got the crap kicked out of him all of the time. Do you want to kind of go deeper into that, or deeper into what you disliked a lot about the military?
You know, it's funny. It took me so long to realize the type of person that I am. The physical side of it, I picked up just fine. Even waking up early, wasn't necessarily a morning person. I do like my nighttime. Well, I used to anyway. I'm getting kind of old.
Getting a little old.
Getting excited.
Getting up there.
Honestly, the type of person that I am has always been the entrepreneurial mindset. It's always been, I tell myself what to do. I lead my own path, and I blaze that path, whatever it ends up looking like. Military is not accepting of people like that. So yeah, I got my ass kicked a lot. My own bright ideas. They used to call me the bright idea fairy. It's a good way to tell them to keep it to themselves, right? That was the hardest part for me. It was not talking back, not coming up with my own ideas, staying in my realm, like just doing what I'm told, and no control over my life whatsoever. For that reason, I could not stay in. You know, to me, it just felt like this. It's a great path for people that want to be told what to do, and a lot of people, they do like that, right? Like they like to clock in, they like to clock out, and not really think about it. But for me, I'm a vision setter. You know, that's who I am as a human. Like, I like to chase clouds and believe in stuff that isn't proven, you know? So for me, a life like that is very suffocating. And for that and a lot of other reasons, I needed to get out and figure out what I looked like.
Yeah. Do you think that experience drove you deeper towards the entrepreneurial style mindset and things instead of, because some people I've heard that in the military stuff gets beaten out of them, right? And you kind of stuck with it to like, cool, this is what is pushing me out. Do you think that drove it deeper down to who you were? Or do you think it was so deep that it's like, it didn't matter what anybody was saying, I was going to do it anyways?
You know, I guess there's a couple answers to that one. I think it depends on the type of person that you are. What it did more than anything is it challenged my belief system. You know, asked me how bad I wanted it. And I stuck with it, right? I kept believing it. I could have become just another cog in the machine and just believed that's who I was. As much as I had to act that way, it never really broke my spirit. It just empowered who I was as a human. And life experience just continued to multiply on top of that until I actually did something about it. And I guess I would say that the second answer to that question is what it really did for me was it let me understand that I can remain in what we call the suck. Throughout life, you know, stuff hasn't been easy. You know, there's been a lot of really, really challenging moments where most people would quit. But what the military did for me was it gave me a threshold past where most people would quit. And when things have gotten hard, and they have since, I've just known that, well, this isn't as bad as it gets, and I'm good. And because of that belief system, I've stuck it out. And because I've stuck it out, I find myself in opportunity and abundance. And for those reasons, I'll always be grateful for my service.
Yeah, I love the one time he came back, he almost killed me and my brother. Just kidding. It wasn't that serious. It was my brother in the front lawn, a little terrified. But yeah, just I'm glad that you did serve. I'm really grateful for your service because it was always good to see you come back around because that's what's always been great. Cody and my family and Cody have always been like surrounding planets. They're always like shifting around, and sometimes we're aligned and we see each other a lot, and sometimes we're just floating around each other. But it's always good that when he'd float back towards us, he'd always come visit. Yeah. And so was built the relationship over the long term. So you moved from that to the restaurant industry. we don't have to dive deep into that. I just got to say I appreciate you for your wedding gift. We got to go to a very beautiful restaurant he was working at, and we got to sit at the chef's table and got to eat all this amazing food that he cooked over open flame at this cool restaurant in Park City. It was awesome. Really appreciate that. But my one question about the restaurant industry is, why did you leave? You put in all the efforts to do the training and the schooling and all the financial investment and all that stuff. What was the main reason that caused you to push out from the restaurant industry?
I was losing my passion for cooking. There was the choice getting out of the military. You have the GI Bill, and you got to decide what to use it on. You know, a lot of vets, they get out and they get depressed, and I wanted to make sure that I just pushed a lot of the fuel that I currently had into the next thing. That way I didn't actually go down that route. There was that concept of, and I guess the reason I stuck it in as long as I did is that, well, I've put this much into it, I might as well keep going. I think it's called the sunk cost fallacy. And I pushed it. And I just, that life, you work nonstop. It was like I never stopped being in the military. I just chose one infantry for another. But the passion of it all, the reason that I started it was because I love cooking for my friends and family. It brings everybody together. I get to, love on everybody and, have my little mini family. I'm sure you remember all the experiences in Park City cooking random shit.
Yeah. We made Krabby Patties. If I find the picture, I'll put it on screen. But we made Krabby Patties, and that was one of the best things I have ever eaten. It was to this day, I still think about it.
They were good.
Yeah, they were
hot
good.
Tub session after that.
Yep, chilling on the hot tub.
Maybe a beer or two.
Yep, couple.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's why I started it. And the truth is that I never really wanted to make money off of my passion. And I'd be crazy to think that getting paid like a chef was anything like what I needed. It was the tail end of my career. I was killing it, but I was making $40,000 a year. The $10,000 bonus at the end, that's, as a chef, that didn't work for me. So working that much for that little of pay, I realized that I can have my passion of food, but also figure out how to make myself money.
He missed my wedding by 2 hours because he had to work. He was called into work on the day. Yeah. It was a bummer. But I really appreciate all the food skills that you've taught me from being in culinary school and being a chef. It's been fun to watch, and I just can't wait for the day that you and Abby compete to make some sort of dish of some kind, because we've been planning this for years, we've been trying. We'll get to it. We've been busy dudes.
That girl can cook, man.
Dude, she can cook. It's an impressive. I'm so grateful. If you're not married yet, find yourself a girl or a guy who can cook. It solves so many problems for you. It really does. Yeah. So my wife can cook meals, so we gotta do that soon. Now that you have been out of the restaurant industry and in the military, you started doing door-to-door sales shortly. Did you do door-to-door sales in the midst of doing restaurant stuff, or was that after?
I was after. It was New Year's Eve. I had a big old fancy dinner I was going to put on. I was working at a place called Hearth and Hill. Got into it a little bit with a cook the night before. He didn't want to clean his station. He was a 40-year-old man who just threw a fit because he had a hard night. And in the chef life, pretty much every night is the hardest night that you've had. So it was pretty tough for me to want to clean somebody's station that is underneath me, right? Just because he throws a fit. I got a little mad at him. Nothing crazy, but he threw a fit, didn't come into work the next day. And then my uppers decided it was my fault, and they benched me. I'm so glad they did. I mean, I was so mad.
What's benching? Sorry, I don't know what that is. Is that
It essentially made me take my chef cut off and told me to take the day off.
Oh, okay.
While I was reviewed for my behavior, which just sent me up a wall. I'm like, really? The chef life that I got brought up in was getting things thrown at me. And if I get a little upset with a 40-year-old man that doesn't want to clean up his mess, I think that was just kind of the straw for me. But they did it. They benched me. They didn't have my back. And it was the best excuse in the world, honestly, to just be like, I need to reconsider this whole thing. Everything that we have going on, with cooking, with the money that I make, my lifestyle. I need to look at it, And I got invited back in New Year's Day. It was what it was. I think it was 2019. And they're like, hey, we were wrong. Go ahead and throw that chef coat back on. And I basically told them to fuck off. I'm done. And I never stepped in a professional kitchen again.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
Pest control was next.
Pest control.
Doors,
Yep, I remember those
slinging.
days.
I set myself a goal. That very next summer, I wanted to do 400 pest control accounts, which I was told was not doable.
What is the monetary value for about that, roughly that much?
I had a goal for $100,000, so it translated to 400 accounts.
Okay, cool.
So it was my first summer. I'd never sold anything. I guess most of my life I've been selling things, but never really in a professional setting. My goal was to do 400 pest accounts, get $100,000, change my life. That was the same year that I met Stevie, and I was definitely trying to change things in that scenario too. Meet a girl, impress her, show her that I'm stable, that kind of thing, which I very much wasn't before I joined the pest control life. But yeah, I mean, it's a challenging summer, but I went out and I did it, especially when people were telling me. I mean, the best person on my team, I think, was doing like 250 in a summer, and he'd done it like 9 years. Wow. So if that guy was telling me like, nah, dude, that you should set your goal lower, I'm pretty proud of myself for getting out there and almost doubling what he did.
Do you think that the concept of setting your goal like an outrageous goal is actually doable, right? Because you set the outrageous goal and everyone told you couldn't do it. Do you think that everybody should be doing that with their goals instead of just being like, oh, I know I can hit this? Mm-hmm. Do you think they should just make it outrageous even if they don't hit the goal over the top?
Interesting question. I guess maybe a year or two ago, I would have said yes. And I still would say yes in a way. Outrageous goals are great. If you decide to set huge goals, make sure that you set milestones on the way. Something that's so far away. I mean, anything is achievable, but something that's, years and years down the path, it's great to keep it there. Make sure that you set up little goalposts that you're hitting along the way. Otherwise, it gets exhausting. You need to hit these little things on the way. Like, you're just like, oh, I did it. I got that quarter mark. I got the half mark, whatever it may be. I didn't do that. I got so focused with that furthest goal. Like, the goal is to build and sell $1 billion company. That's my new goal, right? Do it in 5 years. I wanted to be a unicorn. The thing about it is that can't happen right now, right? Mm-hmm. And so if I delay any type of excitement or celebration for 5 years, all I'm doing is just working. I can't stop to smell the roses. I can't enjoy any moment along the way because I'm just so focused on what is out there. And what I've learned is it's okay to have that goal, but I need to make sure that I'm celebrating the wins along the way.
Yeah. I think most people don't celebrate those wins. No. I think most people are just like, oh, I haven't hit my goal. I haven't hit my goal yet. But psychologically, I know there's some studies on this, so don't quote me 100% where they're at. But there is psychological studies when you do reward, just like you're saying, with those little goals, it helps you actually achieve the big goal.
Yeah.
So
it does.
Yeah, dude.
And it keeps you aligned. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is realigning with the said goal, making sure that you're magnetizing yourself towards it. I just don't see, the only way that doesn't happen is if you give up. As long as you remain like focused and you don't quit. Like, that's the biggest thing. You're going to get challenged for what you want in life always. And especially if it's something big, one of the biggest things that you're going to go through as a human is how much shit you can put up with and stay there, right? Don't quit. Celebrate the goals to make it easier, or celebrate those little wins to make it easier. You're going to get there. You just will.
Dude, gold. I love that. Going back a little bit, you said that you have a $1 billion company 5-year goal. Mm-hmm. Where are you at on that? Is this the beginning? Is it just this year that this goal started, or is it last year? Are you halfway through? Where you think you're at in this?
When I put it out to the world, it was 2 years ago. Started working in the solar industry about, I want to say, 3 to 4 years ago. No, maybe 3. But anyway, I stated the goal about 2 years ago. I've got 3 years left to go. I gotta say, the first 2 years was getting the mistakes out of the way, man. Like, it was really hard. A lot of money issues, a lot of great times. I called it most people call it the solar coaster.
Is it because is the up and down, or is it?
I think that what they say is most companies, most startups experience almost bankruptcy, if not bankruptcy, multiple times in the first 2 to 3 years. You're getting your mistakes out of the way. You're paying your dues, and you're making sure that you are the one that deserves to be there, right? You're sticking it out. So these next couple years are the money-making years for me. And it feels like we really have just stepped on every landmine that we possibly can. And me and my partner, Nick, have just sewed ourselves back together, and we're still pushing forward. So this next 3 years is the years to be able to actually celebrate the wins along the way, hit our goal, my goal at the end of this. $1 billion is a lot of money, so
it is a lot of money.
I think I'll be done working.
Sure. If you're at that point, that'd be fun. We'll do another podcast after you hit the $1 billion mark.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I get to state it as a staple today, right?
Yeah. And what is today? The 24th January 2024. 1/24/24.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this month, 3 years from now, hopefully sooner, I'll be retired and have sold $1 billion company.
Dude, when that happens, we'll get another podcast on. We'll talk about that for the rest of the journey.
You did it.
He did it. He made it work. That'll be
I'll be
a
slightly
fun.
drunk on that podcast. I promise you.
Hey, it'll be worth it at that point. We're like, all right, ready to go. Mm-hmm. So, in that way, do you think of going back to the $1 billion? Do you think that having just one thing is going to be your direction? Or are you going to buy something, sell it? Or are you just going to in the meantime, in those 3 years, are you going to try and build a couple things? Or are you just aiming to build one thing, get it to that point and sell it? Or is that, what kind of strategy are you thinking of doing that?
My strategy for anything business is do it 3 to 5 different ways, at least 3, whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? So when it comes to solar, like I know that most ways that we're going to try are going to fail, but normally 20 to 30% things tend to stick. Throw it at the wall, see what sticks type of deal.
Yeah.
So solar is one thing, right? Doing solar a bunch of different ways is how we're going to do solar. And the same is true for how we're going to hit the $1 billion goal. I'm focused on the fastest route. I like to call it the fastest car. I'll get on that car, whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be solar. The most recent transition is taxes.
Yeah.
Right. So it's more along the lines of what's going to get us there faster, creating an umbrella of companies that we can sell. At least the way that we see it is when you're selling these companies, you're looking at X factors, right? Tech or SaaS platforms currently have a 10X factor, meaning if it makes $100,000 a year, you can sell it for $1 billion, right? So it's just, what is that thing that gets us at that $1 billion goal fastest? So tech is going to be one of those things. Taxes is another thing. I mean, it's one of those, like, if you can save people money in taxes, like, you're not doing anything wrong there.
No, they will appreciate it for sure.
Solar is an interesting one. I hope the industry goes, but I have a feeling that here in the next year or two, it's going to be stipulated and like bought out by a specific industry, maybe Blackwater or something like that. But I think it's going to get fixed, kind of like what happened to the car market, where it's sold for this amount and everybody has access to this, and this is how solar is done now. It's not like salesmen or...
It's all uniform, and people just like, if you need sales, you go this direction.
It's been the Wild West forever, you know, and I think somebody's going to come in and just rectify it. We actually have plans to be a part of that process at some point. My partner, Nick, is going to figure out how to be on the cutting edge of that, get solar into people's hands at a very, very cheap rate, cut out a lot of the commission side of it, and just go for that volume play.
Cool. Mass volume. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Cool. Well, out of all of what you've learned thus far in your life, what are 2 things that you could give to people who are just starting their journey? If they're just starting like an entrepreneurial journey, or they're moving in a direction like, oh, I'm doing door-to-door sales, or moving towards something that they actually want to do, what would be some advice you would give people like that? Because it's nice to see, I'll give you a second to think, but it's nice to see all of the things that you've done and where you've come from, your background, and I know you really well. Like, we could dive deep into that if we wanted to, but there is so many things that have happened in your life that would have said, hey, no, Cody isn't going to succeed. Cody's not going to do this. But now if somebody came and looked at you now, they'd be like, oh, wow, I would have never expected. Like the teachers in high school or the teachers around in life that were like, oh, I would have never expected Cody to be that way. So in that form, what advice would you give somebody? Like maybe 1, 2 things.
You know, it's always easier to give yourself advice than it is other people, because they got things working for them that you don't, right? A talent of my own is that I always find a silver lining everything that happens. And I would ask someone to always find a silver lining coming through life, remain positive, you know, because life can't be sunshines and rainbows all the time. In fact, more than not, it's just you painting it to look that way. Life can be hard. If you can't focus on finding resilience through the difficulty, then you end up being a very negative person. So I would say find your resilience, find your power in that. My buddy actually brought something up recently about the uncomfortability of life. You got to invite people to find peace in the uncomfortable, you know? But the resilience bit to it and the peace in the uncomfortable will help you to not quit. So that's the biggest piece of advice I would give anybody. Don't quit. If you want it, you'll get it. Just be patient. Don't quit. Find peace in the uncomfortable and remain positive. Best you can. Ooh. If you really got to get fucking angry, get angry, throw some shit, punch a wall, whatever you got to do. Leave it there. Move on. You'll win.
Dude, that's good. I love that. I think more people need to stay positive.
Yeah.
And practically do hard stuff. Taking Cody's advice, be the only way to be at peace at it is to continue to do it hard. Yeah. Push yourself. Maybe take an ice bath, Cody. Maybe just one. It works, dude. It does.
We just signed up for a membership that's got the ice baths and the saunas, so we'll see.
Do it.
Yeah.
I want to hear how that goes.
Yeah.
Nick, his business partner has been trying to convince him to do.
Don't tell Nick.
Oh, he might see this. Nick's probably looking at this right now. He's probably hearing this right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good. Nick, this is not an invitation, man.
It is an invitation. I want to see the videos. But Cody, dude, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Inward Mind podcast. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to come have a conversation. And I'm excited. I mean, Cody, been doing a little bit of business together, and it's excited to see how things go. And I'm very excited to see how the next 3 years pan out for you and for Stevie and your journey towards your $1 billion goal. So, Dude, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. And this is the Inward Mind.